Ben Shapiro, for example, what has he got cooking right now?
I want to play you this clip because this apparently set 1,000 hearts aflutter. And let's be real about this. It's insane that we haven't raised the retirement age in the United States. It's totally crazy. Joe Biden, if that were the case, Joe Biden should not be running for president. Hey, Joe Biden is 81 years old. The retirement age in the United States at which you start to receive Social Security and you are eligible for Medicare is 65. Joe Biden has technically been eligible for Social Security and Medicare for 16 years, and he wants to continue in office until he is 86, which is 19 years past when he would be eligible for retirement. No one in the United States should be retiring at 65 years old. Frankly, I think retirement itself is a stupid idea unless you have some sort of health problem. Everybody that I know who is elderly, who has retired, is dead within 5 years. And if you talk to people who are elderly and they lose their purpose in life by losing their job and they stop working, things go to hell in a handbasket real quick.
Yeah.
Back to work, Grandpa.
Yeah. No, this is definitely this really speaks volumes about other Ben's commitment to to like those good conservative values of family and reverence for previous generations. It's like, why should he get to retire just because he's old? Fuck that. Like, somebody needs to clean my floor. Come on.
Well, I think
back in here. What are you doing? Like, you think you can spend time with your family just because you're 70? No. I cannot see my reflection on this floor yet. You come back.
What's telling real quick is just he says everyone that I talked to about this topic. So I don't think that he talked to that guy about would he or she enjoy cleaning my floor for 5 more years until they're 85 years old. I think he talked to his friends in conservative media, maybe some lawyers, maybe some people in doing the really important work of producing conservative films. Those people that retired where they maybe work like maybe some of them work hard, but a lot of them probably do not work very hard compared to the average person. Maybe work 20 hours a week, if that. Those people that retired became depressed, and I think, it's anecdotally, of course, there exists some people that their work really was their sense of purpose. And I'm sure that, Ben, the people that Ben knows, that's a very high percentage of them, but that is not necessarily, as many have pointed out, a very high percentage of everybody that works. So yeah, it's very elitist.
Yeah, this is what I said when this came out, right? Like, I'm always struck by the enormous lack of empathy on the part of people who do have creative, fulfilling, intellectual kind of careers for people who actually work in very hard jobs where there's minimal pay, very little respect paid towards you. You're dealing with, shitty customers or shitty bosses all day long, and you get no benefits on top of that. You'd think that, anybody with a microcosm of intelligence could extrapolate that, well, maybe that job isn't as pleasant as the one that I have, or at least as easy as the one I have. But no, apparently that's an intellectual leap that they're not capable of making, let alone an emotional one. And I just wanted to say what's really remarkable about this is Ben was very shifty in the way that he presented his arguments for this on Twitter, because this produced just an enormous backlash, including from some conservatives, which I was kind of happy to see, though I suspect that that's probably in part strategic and tactical because they know their base and they're probably not happy to see a major conservative telling all the boomers that he's going to cut their social insurance, since that's probably going to be the people who will vote for Trump down the line, right? But he said, look, we could fix social insurance and we could fix the pension plan, but we need to raise taxes like they have in European countries. And this would inevitably fall upon the middle class, and we just can't have that. And this is a big shift from just minutes earlier where he was talking about how it was absolutely impossible to do anything to fix this. So the system just had to die. And a lot of us were like, well, Ben, you kind of laid out the solution right there, which is a transition to social democracy. But apparently that is just so beyond the pale for you because it would be such an indecent thing to do. So instead, we should just have geriatrics and walkers dawdling around McDonald's at age 85, handing out burgers to kids, because that's what a decent society would do.
Yeah. I mean, this is really amazing too, because it's also worth pointing out, this is a little petty, but I think it is pretty revealing that, one, he says we haven't raised Social Security age. We fucking did. right? The age for full benefits for Social Security is 67. It used to be 60. For people our age, right? Like it only kicked in at a certain point, but I mean that decision to like eventually transition it was made decades ago. So that's one thing, right? He's portraying it as if it's like never been changed. By the way, also a bad thing. It shouldn't be, right? 65 is old enough to, like you have earned your retirement. You should be able to retire at 65. But it has been.
And you just be able to retire at 65 and spend some time with that fucking family that Ben constantly talks about cherishing so often, right? If you're age 65, I imagine that for a lot of people, they'd prefer to be spending that time with their grandchildren and their children, and maybe even their great-grandchildren, like my grandmother, rather than cleaning Ben's floors. But I guess that Ben really thinks that his floors need to be cleaned. And if he can pay somebody who's 80 $2 an hour to do it, then why not? That's what the market will bear.
And what, real quick also, I mean, for the percentage of people that don't enjoy retirement, how much of that is also because of financial concerns? You know what I mean? Because there's retiring and then there's retiring, and I've seen the difference of people who could retire and not have to worry about money, so some of these people, I mean, I think they're probably still enjoying it over like many of the type of jobs that we're talking about. But at the end of the day, I mean, if we don't, not living in at the very least a more socially democratic setup, there's a lot of I mean, it's better when you're old, but it's not like the money concerns stop, so it's a whole other concern laid on top of that.
Yeah. Also, whether again, to reiterate, you should be able to retire 65. Social Security has already been raised to 67, but also when people like Ben say that it's totally broken and all this, like Andy and I actually did a thing about this last Thursday. We watched the Sam Cedars debate with a right-wing caller about this, and actually, like, really to circle and underline this point, you could change nothing, right? Don't raise the cap, don't do anything, and Social Security in 40 years, whatever, would still pay out at like 80% of what it's currently projected to. It just wouldn't pay out at 100% if you did nothing. So that's alone, right? The idea, like that. I think that's just a sort of ground reality that's completely missed in all of this. Also worth pointing out that a lot of the reason that people say, oh, life expectancy is so much higher now. It's like, well, okay, one of the reasons that life expectancy is higher is that a lot of life expectancy figures are the overall averages were thrown off by the fact that so many people died as kids in the 1930s. And also to the extent that some elderly people are living longer, yay. And also that's also some of that is because of slightly less precarious conditions for the elderly because of Social Security and Medicare. So that's a sign of success, of the program. But
I should add to that. Like, I think this is a perfect example of exactly what Marx was talking about when he talks about how under capitalist conditions, even if improvements in technology won't necessarily lead to improvements in the quality of life for many people, precisely because there are systematic imperatives that prevent that, right? I mean, if you see a very similar discourse going on right now about automation, right? I saw you got in an argument about this today, Ben, right?
Yep.
I mean, under ideal conditions, there are a lot of reasons for socialists to celebrate the automation of bad jobs if social conditions were such that people would be automated out of those jobs and were able to find something better, right? But they're not, right? Because the way things exist right now, they're going to be thrown out of a job and onto the street, right? Many of us, right, would like to think that improving medical technology would mean that you'd be able to enjoy a final 20 years of life, maybe. Spending it with your grandchildren, spending it on the beach, spending it, trying to write that great American novel and probably failing, right? or your biography or what it happens to be. But instead, their idea is, no, if you're going to live an extra 20 years, you should be doing something productive with that, because otherwise, what value or what meaning does your life have to me, right? And I can't think of anything that is more obscenely representative of exactly what Marx was talking about than these kinds of dispositions that are being articulated so frequently right now by people like Shapiro and Walsh.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is, the argument today with a libertarian academic, Chris Freeman. I'm not sure.
What I should say is contributing to your and I is a collection on G.A. Cohen. So the libertarian perspective will be represented there. So
no, I don't, I hate this person. I'm publishing him. I'm all for,
Chris is a smart guy. I had a debate with him. He's nice in person.
Yeah, we didn't want to do this with just people who agreed with us in the collection. But in any case, right. So I have nothing against him, but I do think he's wrong. And what he, and he's wanted as part of that whole argument against automation. I mean, my thing is, I don't think he really gets the point that socialists have always made about automation. This goes back to at least Marx. That is that people that, yes, under capitalism, automation means that some people are out of a job and some people are working just as hard as ever. But under a better system, where workers or communities or both, we're collectively controlling the means of production, then, workers could respond to labor saving technology by simply voting themselves fewer hours for the same income, right? That they, which would be, obviously much better. And in the course of going back and forth about this, it seemed like part of his point was to attribute shorter working hours over time to to technological advances that have happened under capitalism. And I would just point out that it's like, look, Bernie Sanders right now is promoting is doing this big push. He just had Sean Fain from the UAW testify to the Senate as part of this push for a bill to shorten the work week to 32 hours. And he points out that, since it was legally capped at 40 hours, right, in the 1930s, right, as part of the sort of second wave of the New Deal, that since that happened, I mean, productivity has skyrocketed. I mean, the increases in productivity since the 1930s have been stupendous, right? Like that there's been, like 1 hour of industrial labor, right, is just unfathomably more productive in 2024 than it was in 1937. It got the Fair Labor Standards Act. So I think that's 1937. Anyway, they have but work week still 40 hours, right? So it doesn't really seem like this is going to happen without political intervention, which makes a lot of sense, because how would that be in the interests of the people who own businesses? Like why, how does that serve your interest to have people just work in fewer hours but make as much money as they ever did, when obviously, you can lay some of them off and then maybe new industries will pick them up or whatever. But certainly one thing that won't happen is that they'll just naturally be working fewer hours, because there's just no incentive built into the system for anybody who has that power, which is why, I mean, the, employer class has been resisting efforts to shorten the legal work week since the 19th century. I mean, this is what the, one of the longest chapters in Capital is about that, the working day. And I just see no reason that would ever stop. And, on Ben Shapiro, this is really grim when you put it together with, on last Friday, Matthew Whalen and I watched a event that Shapiro did at the University of Wisconsin, where he did his favorite thing, argue with college students. And
18-year-old college students, let's be clear, master students and PhD students, that'd be a little dangerous. Can't do that.
Maybe even some cafeteria workers might be a little dangerous for him.
Yeah, or the high school students are touring the school.
Yeah, no, those would be even better. But yeah, do what you can. Yeah, I remember a while ago, Norm Finkelstein offered to re-enroll in college if that meant that
Yeah.
Shapiro would be willing to talk to him.
Yeah.
But in any case, like
That
in this, there was a point where somebody asked him about slashing university budgets, and he's like, "Oh, I basically don't think there should be any state support for education because, and he was like, when I went to college, I could get private student loans because that was a good investment for the company because they knew that I was going to get this law degree and I'd be able to make lots of money and pay it back." But yeah, if it's not a good investment, and of course he did the usual stupid conservative thing. It's like if people are just majoring in lesbian dance theory, that major that so many people do in college, right? That's such a common.
I have a degree in that.
I would assume so. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I meet a new person, I just automatically assume, oh, you went to college. Oh yeah. Lesbian dance theory. Okay. Yeah. Then it's like, oh, why should their education be subsidized? So
which is also funny because if you talk to Ben on another day, he'll probably be bitching and moaning about how lesbian dance is just taking over the pop culture industry, and everywhere he turns, there's another lesbian dance bar that's opening up because it's a growth industry, and that we need to do something to put a stop to the cultural corrosion that this signifies.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like, look, if you put this together with the retirement view in that clip, that is something else, right? Because the combination is like, okay, so I just want to make sure I'm getting this. Unless you're somebody who's going to become an upper middle class professional who'll make lots of money, right? Unless you're at least at that level, that unless you're at least going to be a lawyer or something, then you should go straight from high school to the workforce, and you should stay in the workforce until you fucking die.
Nice.
That is a world I want to live in.
I find it obscene too, because we should be focusing on making ourselves, following our interests, spending time with our families, going out and seeing art shows, concerts, movies, take in, make ourselves be better people. And that kind of thinking is detrimental to self-improvement.
Yeah, and I would frame this in a somewhat different way, using one of Ben's favorite terms, freedom, right? Martin Hagland wrote a fantastic book, This Life, where he talks about, what the meaning of life would be from a socialist perspective. So if you're into that thing, and I am, I strongly encourage you to look this up. But one of the things that he points out is that there's this integral connection between the time that you have available to you and your freedom, right? In a way that is very commonsensical, right? I mean, if I have 8 hours where I'm laboring for someone else, and then 5 hours a day where I can do what I wish and express my individuality or form meaningful relations with others, then I am more free if I suddenly get 6 hours rather than those 5, right? And to be clear, right, I think that if we were to move towards a 4-day week, which we should, many people might decide that they want to work more, and that choice should be available to them.
Sure.
Much like Ben, and much like Ben here, I personally suspect that, if I were granted the opportunity to retire, I probably wouldn't fully do it. Might teach classes that I don't like, but, generally speaking, I enjoy what I do on a day in and day out basis. Not around the time when exams are due, but, generally speaking. But a lot of people don't like their job and would like to retire if they have that option. And so really transitioning to a 4-day week and then giving people the prospect of retiring and giving them more free time and leisure time to spend as they wish, all that is freedom maximizing. And it's very clear when you hear Ben talk about this, that's part of the problem he has with this, right? That there's this libertine, decadent quality that he associates with this idea that people can just be left to their own devices to make decisions about what they want to do with the precious hours of their lives. He thinks that their life would have more meaning to him if they were working and working hard. Now, he sometimes cashes that out in terms of, well, it'd be more meaningful for them. But then my response is, well, why not let them make that fucking decision by creating the ticks where they can choose to work if they want, or if they want to retire at 65, or they want to work 4 days rather than 5, or, they want to have a little bit more leisure time available to them, then by all means, they have that option available to them.
Yeah, no, that is exactly it, right? I mean, look, if there's a difference between not doing anything and not having to do a particular thing so you don't starve. Right? Like that. So, for example, Ben Shapiro, presumably, I mean, I think he's the co-owner of the Daily Wire. It's a successful business. He's, you know, presumably still making royalties from his shitty books, etc. He, you know, he could decide to retire right now at, you know, whatever, whatever, 34 or whatever he is, right? You know, and
He's 41 actually.
41, okay.
Yeah.
They have
still arguing with 18-year-olds though. Probably
sure.
can keep that going until he's 50, 55, you know.
Sure. But it's like, look, he could retire right now, right? Like financially, he doesn't have to do any of this stuff, right? That this like he could disappear, right? Never do another podcast, never write another article.
Yeah, just lightsaber fights with his kids.
Exactly, right? Which actually, yeah, was probably the moment that was probably the single thing I've heard Ben Shapiro said that charmed me the most, right? It's like, okay, you know, that actually does humanize him. But like whatever, like we could never hear from him again. And financially, presumably, I mean, unless he made some really bad investments, he would be fine. Right. Nevertheless, sure, he chooses to do this, and I'm sure it is meaningful to him. And, you know, I as little as I like, you know, what he says, I get that, right? I mean, if I have, you know, if people, you know, continue to want to, you know, pay me to write articles and, you know, and I'm still doing the podcast or whatever, I'll probably still keep doing this until I physically can't too, right? I mean, I might slow down a few years earlier than like Noam Chomsky or somebody has, but, you know, I probably wouldn't slow down to nothing. Right. I mean, I'd still, you know, write the occasional article, do the occasional podcast. I totally get it. Right. But also, most jobs under capitalism do not closely resemble being a writer or a podcaster. Right. That Ben Shapiro and I are both in the having opinions business, which is very different from, say, working at a meat packing plant. Or, you know, being like a cleaning person or, you know, et cetera, right? Like working in construction, even like the example we were talking about off air earlier, right? You know, being like even something that's like formally middle class, but is like a lot more stressful, like, you know, like being like a K-12 special ed teacher or something like that. Very virtuous, but like, you know, something that like
my mom did that for decades, right? She was a spec ed teacher. Whenever people would press her on the fact that she retired at 60, she was like, well, do you know how often you fucking complain to me about having to deal with your own kids? Imagine having 20 people's kids, all of whom are yelling at you all the time, and having that go on decade after decade, and then going home and having to look after your own 4 kids, you know, the 4 of us, right? And usually that was enough to...
I cannot imagine doing that for decades. It's totally beyond me. And it's like, yeah, if you want to just go out and, you know, like just sit in the fucking sun in your garden and play with your grandchildren like Don Corleone, you know, like good, you should absolutely be able to do that. If you want to pick,
what does he say? You know, I drink more wine than I used to, you know.
yeah. It's like, look, we all got to go. That one looked like a pretty good way to me. But like, that's great. If instead, or in combination, or a little bit of each, or whatever, right? You know, you want to do things that are meaningful to you, right? Then then great, right? Like, I want a society where there are lots of opportunities for people to do that. You know, I think that I think there's a lot about how housing works. There's a lot about how much people are working. There's a lot about how far away from each other people have to live right now that makes all this stuff harder, right? But it's like, yeah, I mean, there's no reason whatsoever that somebody who's, you know, retired from their job or doesn't, right? Fuck it, right? If you don't want to, fine, you know, keep going, right? But it's like, there's no reason that somebody who has retired for their job, you know, can't like do volunteer work, that they can't have, you know, they can't be really involved in their church or synagogue, that they can't, you know, like there are all kinds of things that are structured activities that are meaningful to people you can do, or whatever. You can even get another job, right? But like, you know, the point is, should you have to, when you've already worked for decades and decades. When you're in those last decades of your life, should you have to, and should your livelihood depend on your doing that? And I just cannot imagine, especially as a rich person who makes his living looking at the camera and having opinions about things,
and making movies like Lady Ballers. Let's not forget.
Okay, sorry, I forgot about his artistic contributions to cinema. I take it all back now. You have been watching free public content from Give Them an Argument. To access every single episode of the show, the main show on Monday nights, all of the streams, all of the debate breakdowns, all of the patron-exclusive post-games on Monday nights, all of the patron-exclusive bonus episodes every week, and much, much more, go to patreon.com/Ben Burgis. I cannot resist ending this with, don't be foolish.